my game room, and I want to invite you in, get you some popcorn. Let's see if lettering's worn off mine. Get you something to drink. Mine's water. And sit back and we can watch Tucker Carlson. He interviews just Jason Aldean. I expect we're going to get a lot of uh, feminine viewers tonight. I know a lot of my friends that love Jason Aldean, but we're going to talk about his the Las Vegas shooting. I know, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking about how they didn't give us all the information. That's the reason I'm having to sit caca. Uh, uh, they've withheld a lot of information about that shooting. There's also transgenderism in schools and some other things that they talk about, but it's about 71 minutes long. And so sit back and watch this with me. The reason I do this is because there is a danger that they will take, that YouTube could take Tucker Carlson off. So I feel like I'm not trying to take anything away from Tucker Carlson, but I feel like the more people that broadcast what he's doing and preserve it on YouTube, that if something was to happen and he got his videos got hidden, then you might be able to see him. Or if he got took off of YouTube, then you would have his videos here. So with that, let's sit back and let's watch Tucker Carlson's interview of Jason Aldean.
We're kicking off our live coast-to-coast speaking tour, and we are thrilled to announce a special guest at our Milwaukee show on September 16th. Larry Elder and I are going to be on stage that night, and we're going to be joined last minute by Bobby Kennedy Jr. Bobby Kennedy Jr. live on stage, September 16th, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Get your tickets at tuckercarlson.com. See you there. Here's our latest episode with Jason Aldean. So you've been famous a long time, and then you got way more famous with a single song not too long ago.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way.
Yeah, it does kind of seem that way. And where'd that song come from?
So two of my bandmates, two of the guys that are in my band who I've been playing music with for 25 years, we started a publishing company, I don't know, a few years ago, kind of started our own publishing company, writing songs and kind of keeping all of our stuff mostly in-house. And I don't know, we were just...
That's not the way it's normally done in Nashville.
I feel like it's more the way it's starting to be done now, but it wasn't always that way. And, we're all on the road talking about the same stuff that everybody's talking about, state of the country, those kind of things, what we agree with, don't agree with, what we're seeing. And those guys wanted to basically, write a song about it. And it was, meant to be kind of our version of A Country Boy Can't Survive, the old Hank Jr. thing, but make it relevant to what was going on now, because we felt like it was, there was a lot of stuff out there that nobody was talking about or calling people out for things.
Yes.
And so it kind of came from those guys, and they played it for me. And to me, it was a no-brainer. It was just like, man, this is everything that I feel. It's everything I want to say, and it's something that nobody else is talking about. So, or at least in our world, in the music business. And so we put it out, man. I was excited to put it out, excited to put it out as a single. And, obviously when that happens, you see, a lot of the people with the label or whatever it is, they're like, I don't know, we'll see. A lot of times people in the business, they're just scared of how it's going to affect my career or their career or whatever it is. And, at some point I just feel like you got to plant your flag somewhere and stand for something. And we put it out, we put a video out that I felt like represented the song the way I saw it. And once we did that, it just kind of snowballed from there. We put the video out, and that started getting a lot of traction when it got people trying to cancel the video or whatever, and so it just kind of snowballed. And next thing you know, everybody was checking it out, trying to figure out what all the hoopla was about, and ended up being a huge song for us.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah.
64 million views on YouTube. You try that in a small town. As of today, so the reaction to it was so intense, positive, but also negative.
Right.
All these different news outlets went out of their way, found like the one guy on staff who'd grown up in a small town and been like, no, this isn't real.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing for me I noticed, man, was, being in this business and just that situation for me, especially, I saw firsthand how the media can take something and really switch that narrative and lead you down a path that maybe it's just not true. It's like somebody writes a story and they say the headline is Jason Aldean releases pro-lynching racist song or whatever it is, and it's like, man, that's not fact. Like
I don't remember race being addressed in the song.
Right, but
Did they say that?
it's wild to me that they can go out and media can go out and put that narrative out there, and then you got all the other media outlets, and you know how it works. Somebody says that you do one interview or one person writes an article, then all the rest of them grab that one article and it's blasted out to everywhere, and that becomes the story. That becomes fact or true or whatever. And it was just wild for me to see like how the media could do that and sort of create something out of what shouldn't have been that big a deal. You know what I mean? And so it was the first time not the first time I'd been involved in something like that, but I think the first time on that level, really.
Did it bother you at all?
I mean, it bothered me to a sense of like, man, that's not really, you're taking it and turning it into something else, which I knew it wasn't. But I've also been in the business long enough to know that I'm not going to go out there and start trying to defend myself to everything. I mean, if anybody thinks that I walked down the street, was looking at places to shoot a video and went, man, let's pick a place where they hung a guy in front of the building. That'd be great for, my career, great for the video, great for the story we're trying to tell. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That courthouse is 10 minutes from my house. It was close, you know what I mean? And so when you start having people take you down a path of that,
Also,
well, he picked it because of this. I'm like, that's so stupid. But I'm not going to go out there.
Courthouse, right?
Yeah, it's a courthouse where I go get my car tags
Right.
from my car.
So do you think that everyone who gets car tags there is endorsing lynching?
It depends on who's writing the story, It depends on what the story is.
Where'd that
it's
come
out there.
from?
I think it just online people that go and start trying to find anything that has to do with anything. I mean, it just whatever. If they don't like the song, they want to figure out a way to prove their point, right? So this is that's where the pro lynching stuff came from. That's where all that stuff came from, was that, and it happened 100 years ago. Like, I would have never thought to go back and go through the history of that courthouse to make sure. I mean, and in the South, I mean, if I'm being honest, if you go to the South and find any sort of courthouse, you'd probably be hard pressed to find one that didn't have some sort of racial issues at some point over the years. I mean, that's just is what it is. And but anybody that thinks that we went out of our way to shoot a video there to have some underlying meaning for the video it's just ridiculous to me.
What were you trying to say with the song? What was the message?
I mean, I think for me, it's just, during COVID and the election that followed that and all the stuff. I mean, it was just, I think for us, just looking at what was happening with the country and just, it was just kind of in a mess. We're dealing, I mean, I remember having our friends come over and sit across the driveway from us in lawn chairs because we didn't want to get, closer than 6 feet from each other. And it's just like that kind of stuff was going on. I'm watching TV. People are burning our cities down. There's just tons of disrespect for our country, our police force, all that stuff, and it just, to me, was like crazy. It's like I'm living in this country that's just not what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It was just like, I know that people saw it. I mean, it was obviously been a big conversation. You talked about it a lot, just like the state of the country and those kind of things. But I don't know. I just think it was really eye-opening for me during that time to be like, what are we doing right now? Like, this is so crazy. And things that, I don't know, you just have things that come up that are like, they're trying to normalize things to me that just aren't normal. And that I don't see as normal, that have never been normal, and to just try and force feed me that and go, no, but it is, it's normal. This, you got to accept this. It's like, no, I don't. Like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with, you know, men playing women's sports and those kind of, I will never agree with those kind of things. And if you're trying to make that normal to me, it's just never going to be that. So, you know, when I start seeing stuff like that, it's just me going like, what is going on right now? And I think that to me was kind of the what lit the fuse for the song too, and just the whole thing. So just trying to say like, hey, this is what I see, and I don't know where I'm from. Like, this just wouldn't be a thing. Like, it just wouldn't go down like this.
Well, because there is a deeper truth. It's not just you're from the South, obviously, but it's not just a regional thing. It's a matter of scale. Like, certain kinds of behavior, anti-human, antisocial, lunatic behavior is only possible in a big city, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you do behave like that in a small town, people know you, you know them.
Yeah, you get sniffed out pretty quick.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
why is that so offensive to say?
I don't know. I think it's, you know, a lot of people took it as a threat. Oh, it's a, you know, I heard all that stuff too. Oh, it's a reference to sundown towns and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like, you know, you're taking it as a threat or this or that. It's like, no, it's just like, you know, when you have stuff like that that goes on, small towns, everybody knows everybody. They look out for each other. They, you know, I mean, it just, that kind of stuff just doesn't fly. And if it does, it gets called out pretty quick. And, you know, it's not going to be, it may be a problem once, maybe twice, but that's going to be about it. Like, something's, you know, somebody's going to get talked to, or somebody's going to get, you know, dealt with and that stuff. And it may be meet somebody in the back alley and just, you know, talking it out real well. Whatever.
Well, you didn't see, I mean, the truth is you didn't see a lot of BLM riots in rural Wisconsin.
No.
You know, or South Georgia.
No, they're all big cities.
Exactly.
All big cities, you know, and that's, you know, and I don't think it's any big secret. I mean, a lot of the bigger cities are more, especially if they're Democratic run cities or whatever. I mean, they welcome that stuff almost, it seemed like. And it was just weird, man. The whole thing was weird. And, you know, and I still don't think that we're out of the woods by far, but it seems like it's somewhat kind of settled down a little bit from what it was in 2020, at least, for sure.
Well, because the Democrats are in control, so they call their dogs back. Their militias are at home right now, waiting for someone else to take charge so they can wreck the country again. But I mean, obviously, the idea that they couldn't control that, well, Kamala Harris was sending them money, so yeah, they were controlling it
for sure.
So, what kind of response did you get from your fans to that song?
You know, I think when you do something like that, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of you know, it's probably going to be a lot of people that were fans that don't like the fact that I stand for this or I say this, and, you know, and they kind of peel off, and that's fine. You know,
did that happen?
I'm sure it did. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I mean, I would assume law of averages means it probably did some. But I think also with that, you also have a lot of people that maybe were borderline fans or maybe weren't fans, and all of a sudden go, man, I like that guy. And, you know, I stand by what he's saying too. And so what you lose, you kind of gain back. And you know, to me, it's less about the fans and stuff like that, and more about me being true to who I am, and, you know, being able to lay my head down at night, go to sleep, feeling like I did the right thing that day, and that I did my part to, you know, raise my kids right, and do everything I'm supposed to be doing that day. And as a public figure, not go out and be fake and tell people what they want to hear. It's like, you may not like what I have to say, but at least you're going to know where I stand. And
so I heard that song, and the first person I thought it was Charlie Daniels, who I think had already died.
And I love Charlie.
I could tell you did.
I love Charlie. He passed away now, but, you know, he was definitely one of those guys that was like, you know.
But the spirit was the same.
Yeah, it's like you didn't have to like the guy. You were going to respect him. You know, whether you liked him or not, you respected him and respected his opinion. And he tried to, you know, talk to you in a way that, you know, it wasn't talking down to you if you didn't think the way he did. It was a conversation, and I had a ton of respect for him, and got a chance to know him
really
before he passed away, and yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of similarities in his music and that song for us. And
well, that was the first. I thought Long Hair Country Boy was the first thing I thought of when I
absolutely.
heard that tune. So. But Charlie Daniels, I mean, you know, and Charlie Daniels' politics kind of changed, but the spirit never changed. He was always anti-authority. He was always suspicious of the man, you know, going back even 50 years ago. But he was always celebrated. Like, no one ever called him names.
No.
Right.
And he's a guy that I think he just called it out. He called it the way he saw it. And, you know, he just, if he saw stuff going on in the world he didn't like or in our country or whatever, he'd write a song about it, put it out there, and
Yeah.
you like it or not, but here you go. It's you get Charlie Daniels, and
But there aren't too many more people like that as well.
well, because I think a lot of times in the business it's almost like I don't know, they want you to not step out and do those things. They don't want you to ruffle the waters a little bit. They don't want the waters to be rippled a little bit because they don't know how it's going to affect your career, your fan base, or whatever the case may be. And so I think it detours a lot of artists from going out and really being able to say what they want to say. And a lot of times it's artists too. Artists are scared that if they go out and stick their neck out too far that, they're going to lose some fans or maybe not win some awards at an award show or something. And, and if that's the case, listen, everybody's got their own right to do things how they want to. And it's just not how I operate.
I mean, not to be mean, I know all these, you live in Nashville, you know everybody, of course, because they've all lived there, but kind of hard to call yourself an artist if you're afraid to express yourself, right? Doesn't art require bravery to...
I feel like it does, and that was kind of one of my arguments with the song. It's like, I'm an artist, like, I'm not, a political figure or whatever. It's like, I'm an artist, I sing. So if I do my stuff through song and through shows and things like that, versus getting on and, you have a platform to do your thing and it's killer and you're one of the best at it. And for me, that's music. That's how I do my thing. And if there's something I want to say, that's how you get it out there. And so, but I think, there's a lot of artists that are, like I said, just, whether it's from record companies or management giving them, what they think they should do or whatever the case may be. But I think a lot of people are, just scared to step out because they're scared of losing fans. It's scared that it's going to affect their live shows. They're not going to make as much money or win an award here and there. I think it's starting to loosen up a little bit. You're starting to see, guys not scared to step out and speak as much. I mean, there's been some in the country music world, lately, some of the younger guys that are coming up that have been more that way, which is good to see.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. And it's been, I would say probably over the last 2 years, probably for sure, I've kind of noticed like, wow, it's all right, that guy, I see you over there, guys like a Cody Johnson or even Parker McCullum, who's a young guy coming up. I mean, those guys are out there and they're newer artists and, it can affect them and they're out there saying their piece. And I'm like, all right, cool. We got some like-minded people now that aren't scared to go out and talk about it, which is cool.
Without using names, but since you do obviously live there and know everybody, it's your business, you've been in it your whole life. Do people ever talk about this off camera? The artists ever talk about
just the political?
Yeah, like I want to say what I think, but I'm kind of afraid because the label, my manager.
For sure.
They do.
For sure, yeah. And, it's just, when you're running a business like that, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of people, when you have an artist, there's a lot of people that underneath that artist that work for them.
A lot.
So if they get hit, something happens, I think a lot of people look at like the Dixie Chicks, that situation where, the whole deal with Bush and they went over and talked about Bush, came back and country was like, country radio and all that. I mean, it was done for them after that. And I think that is what a lot of artists look at. It's like, man, well, if I say something, that could happen to me too, sort of thing. And I think that's one of the things that probably has deterred people over the years, especially in the country music world, from speaking on things. But I just think it's a different time now.
Yeah, I mean, the Dixie Chicks, that was an interesting thing. I mean, they weren't entirely wrong about the Iraq War, in my opinion, though they were kind of annoying, I thought. But whatever. But a country artist should always be able to speak for America and normal people. That's the genre, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's our thing. I mean, the country music fan base is blue collar. It's the everyday American. It's not the everyday farmer, like those kind of people. It's like, it's not. And I mean, there are exceptions to the rule. I just mean like overall. And I mean, country music is it's as tapped into the heartland as any type of music there is. And so, I don't know. What I've noticed is I think sometimes you can watch the news or listen to the media or whatever, and there's times where they make you feel like you're crazy. And you go, man, is it me? Like, am I crazy here? And I think it's when you go out, for me, what I've seen is when I talk about things or say something or whatever, it's the amount of people that are like, thank you, and they come to the defense of whatever's going on or just to agree and say, thank you, man. Somebody's finally saying this. And it's the blue collar people and they are the biggest country music fans. And it's not why, it's not like I chose that because, oh, well, we can get more fans because country music fans are like this. It's like, man, that's just how I feel. And I just feel like, I'm a pretty average, everyday guy that, same thing as everybody else, man. I'm trying to raise my kids, raise good kids, and provide for my family. And, I have a lot of people that work for me. I try to take care of those guys. And I know that everything I say is under a microscope. Everything I do is under a microscope, and everything I do could affect everybody underneath me that works for me, my family, and everything. But like I said, man, at the end of the day, I got to be able to, like, lay down at night knowing that I'm doing my part and being true to who I am, and that's really, really important to me.
The big tech companies censor our content. I hate to tell you that, it's still going on in 2024, but you know what they can't censor? Live events. And that's why we are hitting the road on a fall tour for the entire month of September, coast to coast. We will be in cities across the United States. We'll be in Phoenix with Russell Brand, Anaheim, California with Vivek Ramaswamy, Colorado Springs with Tulsi Gabbard, Salt Lake City with Glenn Beck, Tulsa, Oklahoma with Dan Bongino, Kansas City with Megyn Kelly, Wichita with Charlie Kirk, Milwaukee with Larry Elder, Rosenberg, Texas with Jesse Kelly, Grand Rapids with Kid Rock, Hershey, Pennsylvania with J.D. Vance, Reading, Pennsylvania with Alex Jones, Fort Worth, Texas with Roseanne Barr, Greenville, South Carolina with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Sunrise, Florida with John Rich, Jacksonville, Florida with Donald Trump Jr. You can get tickets at tuckercarlson.com. Hope to see you there. I asked your tour manager, how many people go on tour with you? 72 was his number. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
It's like an invading army.
Yeah, it's grown over the years, though. It's like you start and, when we first started, we were on one bus. I think there was 8 or 9 of us on a bus. And that was my first time going out on the bus. It was me, my band. I had a tour manager and maybe 2 crew guys that ran with us. And, then it's like you go to 2 buses and all of a sudden you got 15 people out there. And then you go to 3 buses and there's, 20. And then, it just kind of keeps growing. The next thing you know, we're 19 years into this thing now, too. So
how many buses now?
6 or 8, something like that. And then there's 8 trucks or something, so it's still a pretty big operation, but we've even dialed it down to what it once was. I think on the night train tour we had like 12 trucks and 10 buses or something, so it was wild. But yeah, we're in a good place now, and we got a lot of people that work for us, and it's grown over the years and kind of become a family out there. It's my extended family on the road, and you spend a lot of time with those guys. Hell, more time with them sometimes than I do my own family.
Yeah,
so you get tight.
Parked right outside
right
outside our barn. I pulled up this morning, there it was. What's that doing here? So your wife, who was just here with us for lunch, what a sweet person. She's not a public figure really, but she came out and made a public statement about the lunatic gender mania stuff.
Yeah.
And really got hammered for it.
Yeah, well, and I think, my wife is very outspoken, and she's very, I don't know, very firm in her beliefs and it's tough, man. It's like, you're trying to raise kids. Like we have a 5 and 6-year-old. I have a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old as well. And it's like you're trying to raise kids in an era we were talking about earlier where you're trying to make things normal to me that aren't normal. And I think when she said that, it was just like, there's a certain group of people that are gonna I feel like there's people that are gonna take offense to everything these days, no matter what you say. And obviously she said that, people jumped all over that. But I agree with her. I feel like, listen, if you want to be trans or do those kind of things, like whatever, it's like if you're an adult and can make those decisions and you're old enough to have the mentality to know what you're doing and know what that looks like for the rest of your life, that's one thing. If you're as a kid, your parents are already instilling that in you and like all this stuff and allowing you to do those things before you're of age to do. Like, you can't even vote until you're 18. Like, why should you be able to do that? You know, or drink a beer until you're 21, but you can change your, like, it's just weird to me. And I think if somebody wants to do that, they're old enough to make that decision. Hey, doesn't affect my life, whatever. But you can't try to make that normal to everybody. Like, it's just now it's just like, you know, a puppy. Like, it just is what it is. You know, it's just not like that.
So your wife's point was, if you're promoting castration and gender confusion to children, that's evil.
Yeah.
I don't really see that there's much debate about that, but
Nor do I. But like I said, these days it doesn't matter what you say. I mean, you know, that's the thing. Everybody's gonna have different views on things, and I'm very aware of that. And that's fine. I mean, I feel like people can have their views. It's whatever, and I feel like you're free to talk about it, but don't be mad when I give you my opinion on it
Right.
too. You know what I mean? I think that's where you can think that's okay all day long. I'm never going to. You can talk to me till you're blue in the face. It's never going to change my opinion as far as that goes on certain things. And I mean, you know, there's certain things I agree with, certain things I don't, on both sides of all that
Sure.
stuff. And so, but if it's something that, to me, that's kind of a common sense
it's a
thing.
little asymmetrical though, because you're saying, as I often say, you know, you do your thing, and that's fine. I'll leave you alone.
If it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect
Right.
me.
And
Do what you want.
that's the kind of traditional American attitude. That's not their attitude.
But
at all.
don't shove it down my throat and try to make it normal like that. Like, normalize things to me that just aren't. Like, it's like you're trying too hard to get me to believe. Like, I don't know. It's weird to
But
me.
they are working to shove it down your throat.
For sure.
You have no interest in shoving it down their throat or even seeing their throat.
I don't care. Like, you know, I do what you want to do. I don't.
Did that cause you any problems, like internally in Nashville? Were you at, you know, dinners or award shows or at the Ryman and other artists come up and say, I just disagree with you?
Never to my face, ever. Never. Now, they may bark in the media or do whatever and, you know, throw a tweet up or whatever, but never once has anybody come to me and had a conversation like
What would
that.
you say the breakdown is among artists you know in Nashville? Like, what percentage would agree with you and what percentage wouldn't?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of hard. I mean, there's, you know, I definitely think there's a couple different groups of artist types in Nashville. You know, certain people kind of stick together and run together, and certain people stick together and run together over here. And, you know, so I don't know. I mean, I know the people that I hang with and the people that, you know, I'm close to and kind of where they stand on things. And I also know the ones that probably feel the other way. And,
Is that a big group?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to put a number on it just because I feel like it's camps. It's like, you know, this artist and that manager and their whole camp and whatever, and then these guys and that camp, and so you just kind of know. I mean, um, it's hard to put a number on it, but like I said, I mean, I know, you know, I hang out with my guys who are, you know, it never comes up. It's never really a thing. And if it is, you know, we're usually on the same page. But you find the ones that maybe don't agree with you as much, they sort of keep their distance, which is fine. I'd actually probably prefer that. Actually,
Sounds like a really good plan.
yeah,
What do you think of Trump?
I love Trump, man.
Yeah.
You know, and
How did you end up knowing Trump?
so we ended up getting invited to New Year's at Mar-a-Lago one year, and I think it was, you know, we had kind of started to become vocal about it. And honestly, when he ran in 2016, I mean, I was not political at all. I wasn't, didn't really get into it, didn't really understand it a whole lot, didn't pay much attention to it, and but I did think it was cool that here's this guy that is really not a politician. And at the time, you had, you know, all the A-list stars were going, "Oh, Trump's running for president." They were all excited and almost kind of like it was a joke a little bit. And then he won, and I don't think anybody thought he would win. And for the next 8 years, it's been nothing but trying to just like slander this guy, get him out, you know, and just all the stuff you watch him deal with in the media. And to me, it was just, I don't know, we just kind of started speaking out about that stuff and how we felt about it. And uh, we got invited to Mar-a-Lago for New Year's.
Had you met him before?
I never met him, never talked to him, never met him. Went up there. He invited me to play golf with him that morning, and so I went and had breakfast with him, played golf, came back, had lunch, and then saw him at the thing, and just kind of hit it off. I mean, you've been around him, you know, he's a you know, he's a guy's guy, man. You talk to him about sports or like whatever the case
Yeah.
is, and he's a cool guy. And so I just kind of hit it off with him and kept in touch with him over the last few years, and try to see him when I can. You know, down in Florida, we lived down there part of the time, which is only I don't know, probably 45 minutes from Mar-a-Lago over there. So it kind of started like that. It was like we had no intentions of getting political or any of those things. It just kind of happened, and then with all the elections. So like I said, the last 8 years, just watching what happened and going through 2020, the election stuff and the BLM stuff and the COVID vaccine and all those things, just like, man, just watching all this stuff go down, like, what is going on right now? It's crazy. And so I think obviously having little kids made us get a little more involved and started paying attention to what was happening. And it's like, man, I just, my thing is I don't vote for, and this is true, I don't vote for the person, like, as much as people may say that's a lie or whatever. For me, it's like, which one of these groups is going to take the country in the direction that I feel like it should be taken for my family and my kids and like their future and those kind of things. And to me, that's what I base it on. And I feel like personally for me, that's him. And so, it just kind of became a thing, but it was never, 10 years ago, man, I couldn't have talked to you about any politics at all. I'd be like, I don't know, it just was never.
Because it didn't seem like it mattered.
Well, it just felt like, the country was doing what it does. I mean, it kind of go through its periods of whatever, but it was never crazy. It was still, economy will go up and down and those kind of things, but it wasn't just like a complete shit show, what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden when that happened, it was like, wow, we got little kids. And I'm like, man, I got to send my kid to school. And, it's like, we're talking about like the transgender stuff. And it's like, what do I do if he comes home? It's like, man, there's a girl in my class that's a boy, or it's like, that's hard to explain to a 5 or 6 year old. And people get out there can say it doesn't happen. That's a lie. It's happening in elementary schools. I know for a fact that it's happened around places where we live. And
in Tennessee.
Yeah, man. And it's just like, I don't know. To me, that's just one of those things where it's like, I don't want to have to explain those kind of things to a 5-year-old who doesn't get it. And
shouldn't have to do
no, and shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to explain that to them. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. And but it's those kind of things that made me kind of step up a little bit more than I had in the past.
Was there any downside to being, seen with Trump, saying nice things about Trump?
Again, you're always going to have people that, there's somebody's going to bitch about something. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think that until, I finally just came to the conclusion of like, man, I think I'm right. I just think I'm on the right side of this. And like, I have a platform to be able to go out and say stuff. I mean, there's other artists and actors and actresses and, all these other celebrities that'll get on talk shows and all this stuff. And they'll run Trump down, right there on live TV, or Kathy Griffin holding up a Trump head that looked like he cut his head off. All that stuff's okay. Nobody says shit about that, but we start talking out about things and all of a sudden they're appalled, right? So, but to me, I just feel like I'm on the right side of it, and it's like, man, if you agree with me, cool, and if you don't, that's cool too. I mean, it's not gonna affect the way I, view things or what I say or how I feel, or, I mean, I don't know. It's a wild time.
Were you surprised to see country stars at the Democratic convention?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I didn't watch it really, so I don't really know who was there, but I'm not surprised. I mean, there's definitely that group that, is more aligns that way, and, more power to them. Like, if you want to do that and you think that's a good look for you and that's what you support, by all means, go do it. I mean, it's like anything. It's like with me doing it. It's like, get ready for the consequences, whatever that is, good or bad. Just know that, there may be some, and if you're good with that, then go do what you want to do.
Yeah. Live out your conscience. I agree with that completely. So when you came out with Try That in a Small Town, it got pulled, right, from country music television?
CMT, yeah.
What happened?
I mean, we basically sent so they get a heads up on the video. We send that to them before it ever airs on TV. It's like anything. They look at all the videos coming in. Oh, we're going to add this one. We're going to add that one. And then they put it in the rotation. So they put in the rotation, the song starts doing its thing, then the song starts getting a lot of heat, and a lot of the, the racial stuff started coming up into play. Well, CMT immediately pulled it.
Just to be clear, the song had nothing to do with race.
No. But the narrative that was getting put out at the time by everybody when the song came out, and especially, it wasn't really the song as much as the video. So when the video came out,
because the video had a portion shot in front of a courthouse in front of which 100 years ago there was some racial murder.
Yes, among other things. I mean, there was other stuff in there. People didn't like that the BLM clips were in there, or like those kind of things.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot of, the BLM stuff is in there, but you didn't put the January 6th stuff in there. And I'm like, it's just like
your own video.
Right. I was like, it's my video, so shut up. So anyway, but no, they pulled the video, and
did they give you warning?
No, they pulled it, and then the thing was they pulled it, and they could have just pulled it and been quiet about it, and it would have, just kind of flew under the radar. But when they pulled it, they put out a press release letting everybody know that they pulled it and kind of disassociated with the video or whatever the case may be. And that was what everybody was like, whoa, what's going on? And went and checked it out. And then some people were like, I don't get it. I don't understand what the drama's about. And then other people were like, oh, I see it. I see what he's talking about. So, at that point, you're going to see what you want to.
Who made that decision,
To pull it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would have been somebody at the power to be at CMT. Probably somebody out of the main office, probably not somebody in Nashville, but more somebody that really is the string puller and oversees all that stuff.
But it made the song even bigger.
By far. And it was something that we didn't know that was going to happen. It's like, hey, here's our new single. Here's a video. I thought it was really cool. I don't know, you probably remember this. Do you remember the Billy Joel video or the song, We Didn't Start the Fire?
Of course, yeah.
So the video was all that stuff, the Berlin Wall coming down and all this, and really it was kind of that. It was like, that was sort of the video that I wanted to make, was like a, that kind of thing.
A montage that
right.
evokes that period. Like
right.
2020 was an amazing
current events,
horrifying year. Yeah.
Like the state of the country.
Here's what happened.
Yes, this is it. This is it in a 3-minute nutshell. And so that was the idea. And so I was actually proud of it, man. I was super proud of the video to this day. I think it's probably the best video we've ever done. And so I was really excited for it. And so when they pulled it, it was kind of deflating. I'm like, man, really? Like, people are accusing us of this, and you guys are just pulling it. We've had a long relationship with CMT over the years. I've had some big moments in my career with them. They've been a big part of helping launch my career early on, the videos and those kind of things. And so, it was a little bit of a slap in the face for me.
Nobody called you?
Somebody in the camp, they would call like my publicist or somebody in the camp, but, not me directly. And I got a call from management going, all right, CMT's pulling it. And then they put the press release out. And that's what made everybody want to go and look at it and figure out what the big deal was. And it just, from then on, man, it was on fire.
So something that I hesitate even to ask you about, but I feel like I have to. You were performing in Las Vegas during the biggest mass shooting in American history, and I didn't know until today when we were talking off air. First of all, like how your bus got shot up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Somehow.
Yeah, there's a lot of details about that stuff that there's probably details about that a lot of people don't know. But yeah, it was a wild night, man. My wife was 8 months pregnant with our son, who was in here earlier.
Yeah,
you met.
Good boy.
And it was a scary time, man. It's like, went out to play a show like I always do, and you expect to go out there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, get done, come back, hang out with your guys, and get on the plane or bus or whatever it is and go home. And that night was just a different story, and it was just a weird deal. Something that a lot of the guys in my camp, my crew and stuff, it kind of messed a lot of people up for a while, just kind of going through that stuff. And a lot of the guys who have been with me for 15 years, plus some of them been with me for 19 years. And so, it was tough, man. It was a tough thing to go through. And I was telling you, like before, the toughest part was going through all that, and then you get home and you're watching the news trying to figure out, all right, well, why did this guy do this? Like, what was his reasoning, and why this show? And you never really got any answers on any of that stuff, and still to this day, like, we don't really know much about it. I just, you go and see the aftermath after it happened. There's bullet holes in the front of my bus and the side. My band bus, the windows got shot out of the band bus. my bass player who was on stage to me, one of my best friends in the world for the last 25 years, was standing next to me, had a bullet lodged in the bass he was playing at the time. So bullet hits the bass he's got on at the time playing. And so, yeah, I mean, there was some close calls for that stuff.
Wow.
And a lot of stuff that, I've never really gone way into detail about a lot of it, but it was a
Well,
lot.
I just don't. I attempted to get to the bottom of that over a couple of month period. I got pretty fixated on it. I made no headway at all.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there. I mean, it wasn't my show that got shot up in the biggest mass shooting in American history. Hundreds and hundreds of people shot.
Yeah. It was wild, man. And I went, I remember after that, it was like a couple days later, we got home and we were still kind of shell shocked
I bet.
from all of it. And Lauren Michaels had called me and wanted us to come do Saturday Night Live. And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, it's like, we had shows scheduled that weekend, but we went ahead and canceled. It was like, man, none of us wanted to play, so let's just take a weekend. Let's try and get it together. All of our gear was still sitting on stage in Vegas, so we couldn't even play a show if we wanted to.
I mean, literally on the
I took my guitar off, laid it on stage that night of the shooting, and it stayed right there in that spot for 2 weeks while the FBI went out and, did the crime scene and all the stuff. So we didn't have guitars to play. And Lauren Michaels called us and wanted us to come do Saturday Night Live, do a cold opening and all this stuff. And I said, man, listen, I got some stuff to say. If you'll let me do, I don't want you guys writing stuff for me to talk about or say or whatever. Let me write it and say what I want to say. And Tom Petty had died when we were flying home the next day. Tom Petty, we got the news he had died on the flight home. And so I was like, man, just a crappy week. I was a big Tom Petty fan. And so I was like, man, if you'll just let me say what we want to say and kind of play a song for Petty and just like tie all this stuff in, like it's just been a rough week, And so Lauren told me that was fine. I could do what I wanted. And so we went up there and called all the guys, got everybody rallied up and went up there and played a show. And I'll say this, I mean, that crew and everybody that was on that show was really, really cool to us that day and like very welcoming and stuff, which was really needed, I think, for us at the time. So they helped us a lot to kind of get over that hurdle a little bit to get back and start playing and know that, we had to pick up and keep moving. We had a tour to finish. We had another like 4 to 6 weeks left of the tour to go out and finish after that happened, which was tough. So we did that and then came home and just kind of shut everything down for about 6-7 months and went underground pretty good for a while. And later, my son was born during that time, so I got to come home. He was born, which kind of helped take my mind off of it and stuff. So it was a wild time.
How many interviews did you have with the FBI?
I didn't have any. Mm-mm.
You didn't have any?
That I remember. I don't think I had any.
But you were.
I didn't. But I didn't. I mean, I didn't know much. I might have talked to them one time. I mean, I was on stage. I thought we had a blown speaker. No clue what was going on. And so it wasn't until I got off stage and took my, we wear ear monitors, and so I can't really hear anything except my band. And so I just heard something sound like it was cracking, but it was the gun going off. It just didn't, it was coming through the microphones and it just sounded weird, but I didn't know what it was. And so we got off stage and I took those out and I heard him shoot again, and that's when I knew what was going on. I had no idea until I got off stage.
So he shot for almost 25 minutes, as I remember correctly.
It was a long time. It felt like an hour. So I don't know how long it actually was, but it felt like a long time.
Where were you during that?
So I came off side stage, and like I said, my wife was 8 months pregnant. So the first thing I did
She was there.
Yeah, she was talking to some friends, like up, kind of actually closer to Mandalay where he was at, and I just came off, and when I took my headphones out, I was like, first thing I said was, "Where's Britt?" And one of my guys goes, "I'm going to get her." And he went down the thing, and as he was going down the steps to go get her, she was coming up. So he got her, brought her over there to where I was at, and we just kind of hunkered down for a while. And I kept noticing the guy would shoot, and he, there'd be like a little break where I guess he was going to a different window or whatever he was doing. And so I just told her, I said, the next time he stops like that, get up and start moving. We're going to the bus. And so she got up and started heading to the bus. And we got about halfway there, and he started shooting again. And she kind of froze up, and I grabbed her took her to the bus, got in the back of the bus, and just kind of hunkered down back there. And but even while we were on there, I mean, the front of my bus took, I don't know, 3 or 4 rounds. The side took 3 or 4 rounds or whatever it was. So, I mean, it was crazy.
The reason I asked about the FBI is that you may not have special knowledge, but it was your show. You opened fire on your show, the Just 17 show. So you're kind of, by definition, a central part of the story.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't, and I could have it wrong. I mean, I was a little bit in a daze back then when all that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
I don't recall them talking to me that I remember. But I also remembered going, like, I don't really have anything to tell you. It just sounded weird. And then they were shooting, and I was just trying to get my pregnant wife somewhere and get her safe. Like, I had no idea where the guy was at. We thought he was on the ground backstage. So we thought he was, just backstage walking around mowing people down. That's what I thought. That's why I was like, get up, let's get on the bus and at least, get locked in there I got some stuff on the bus that looked like at least, even somewhat of an even playing field, because I mean, we just didn't know what was happening. I didn't know the guy was having 60 stories up or whatever in a hotel. We had no idea. So, it was just trying to piece all that stuff together. And I really didn't have any information for him. Honestly, I'm like, man, I was playing, this happened, I came off stage. Next thing I saw was, trying to get off the bus and get everybody out of there to get them somewhere safe. We didn't know what was happening. I was watching the news on my bus trying to figure out what was going on. So even though I was living it in real time, I was waiting on the news to tell me what was happening because I had no idea.
But did the FBI ever have information for you?
Maybe, but I mean, they never called me about it. I mean, they may talk to somebody like in my crew, like one of my guys or something, but I never got any information as to like the why or, what the motive was or any of those kind of things.
From anyone?
From anywhere, from anybody.
So that just seems like one of these moments in American history that was a big deal.
Yeah,
Hundreds of people shot. If we're going to be honest, most of them Trump voters, and maybe all of them really. And we just sort of blew past it. If you think about all the time the media spend, in this very lurid way, reliving school shootings, and here's the biggest shooting in American history, and it's sort of never talked about again. And there's no even plausible motive. No one offers any motive at all, or any information about Stephen Paddock, who supposedly or apparently did this. What is that?
I don't know. It's weird. And, when you go through something like that, it's, you're kind of trying to figure out, like, man, was I supposed to be the target of this thing? Was it just an act of some guy that's being evil and just wanting to do damage to just whoever? Like, you don't really know what it is.
Well, exactly.
And so you get home and you're watching going, all right, well, FBI's on this and these guys will figure it out and you'll get some answers. And it's like, it just never happened. And so for a lot of people that went through it, it was wow, that's like, why did that happen why did he pick our show to do that? But.
And you still have no idea.
You still have no answers for that. But I will say, man, I'm really proud of my guys, everybody that went through that, to kind of saddle back up and have to go out and continue a tour. And, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to go out and you're playing amphitheaters and it's wide open. And it's just like, man, it's just, it can be a little unnerving sometimes.
Do you think the government was totally straightforward about what happened and why?
I don't know. I just find it odd that they, can solve all these crazy crimes and all this stuff. And here's a guy that committed one of the biggest crimes in our country. And it's like, we just thought we got nothing. There's no computer, no, he had a girlfriend or something or whatever it was. And he had sent her to wherever he sent her with some money. And, it's just a weird thing. And I'm like, we never got any sort of anything. I mean, it was just never anything that made you go, oh, okay, I see that.
And how do you get thousands of rounds of rifle ammunition up to the top floor in a casino hotel?
Bunch of suitcases, apparently. I don't know. I remember that. They had video of them coming in with big suitcases full of guns. Well, obviously full of guns now, but making multiple trips up the elevator and through the lobby with these big suitcases and getting up to his room. And so, I don't know. I know what everybody else knows, which is
I just think it's weird.
What we got from the news.
Yeah, NBC News.
Yeah.
And they have nothing.
Yeah.
You visited victims in the hospital?
I did. So we played we did Saturday Night Live. That was on Saturday, obviously, and then as soon as that was over, left and flew back to Vegas, which was I think a week to the day of the shooting, and just went in there, went to the hospital, and started making the rounds. Man, just going in, seeing all the people that were in there. Some of them had like a leg wound or whatever, and then some of them had been shot in the head, and like their families are in there, like not knowing. And it just sucks, man. It's like you guys were at my show, like you guys came to hear our show, and that's why you're here, like this. And it was a lot for me to process, and I think that was one of the first things I think for me where it took me out of being this this guy that was just having fun on the road, playing, living this great life and doing my thing or whatever. It's like, you know what, man, this is bigger than all this stuff. Like, this is a big, big deal. And, I had a lot of people that worked for me that were sort of looking to me going, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? And, it's kind of like the lead by example sort of thing. And I'm like, so that was the first time for me that I really had to kind of step up and be the boss.
Yeah.
So to speak. And I think it was good. It was a good thing as far as that goes. It was good for me. I think it kind of made me grow up a little bit. Even though I was already fully grown at the time, it still helped me to. I think maturity level wise, it was like really good for me. As sad as it was, and as it was just like, man, this is a big deal. And going to the hospital, seeing those guys, and just start hearing the stories from everybody, and it was heartbreaking, man. I hated it. I hated that happened. And like I said, just to never have any reason for it or get any closure on what that was all about. Because, it's just kind of been annoying. And, it's just wild that we can do what we put a guy on the moon and we can't figure that out. Like,
Assuming we put it.
I knew you were going to say that.
I don't know. I'm reassessing everything. What do you think?
If in fact you did, who knows?
What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
Not a fan.
You're not a fan.
No.
You didn't even hesitate before rendering that judgment.
Well, I mean, I just think that's the thing where you just look at the state of California. I think it just speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I've been to California a lot. There's some great people out there, man. Big country music fans. A lot of people that are out there that don't agree with his policies and everything, but it's like their families are out there, and they've built lives out there, and they don't want to leave the state just because of this guy. So I just think. I think what he's done to California is not good, and I would hate to see that the rest of the country look like that.
Well, I mean, his friend is running for president on the Democratic side.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So you publicly went after Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I don't think I went after him. I just highly disagree with the guy. You know what I mean? I got a lot of friends that have come from California, and that's why they left. And this, man. I mean, when all that stuff was happening in 2020, I mean, people were leaving in droves coming to Florida and Nashville and all that stuff, and and they're getting out of that because they don't want to be there and live under that, man. And so I'm just not a fan.
Do you think in the end that he's winning, Gavin Newsom, and people like Gavin Newsom, or you and people like you are winning? Like, are we becoming? Is the country going to be more like California or more like where you grew up?
I hope it's more like I grew up. Like I said, I mean, there's parts of California that are great, man. I mean,
for sure.
There's really cool parts of California. But I think, people think of California, they go to LA. They think of LA, San Diego, those kind of places. And I don't know who's been to LA lately, but it's not a sexy town anymore. You know what I mean?
No, not at all.
It's not good at all.
It's like chlamydia town.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's just like that could be such a great city, and it is a great city.
It was a great
city.
The greatest.
And it's just like to watch like what they've done to it out there, and it's just lack of. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's not what it should be. And I just look at like, dude, you got one state to handle, and clearly that's not working out for you. So like the last thing I want you to have to do is handle all the states. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like one, I feel like you got your hands full with one.
It's been such a disaster that you'd think people would say, look, it's not even a political question. It's not Republican or Democrat or Gavin Newsom versus anyone else. It's like, we don't want to live in squalor.
Right.
where people are getting murdered and shoplifting is legal and all that stuff. But
Which that's the craziest one to me, the shoplifting thing.
legalizing theft.
Oh,
Yeah.
just, well, if he's got under however much, $500, you can't stop him. I'm like, says who? Like, what do you mean?
Well, you get arrested if you try and stop them.
Oh, well, I mean, like, that's crazy to me that that's even a thing. It's like, I mean, what do you do? Like, tally up his items before he leaves to figure out if you can stop him or not? Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But that's a prime example of just like, what are we doing? Like, now anymore, it's okay to steal as long as you're not stealing too much.
It's never okay to steal. It's disgusting.
Well, it used to be that way, but now it's fine as long as you're not stealing over $500.
So, but like, do you think that the country will go back to sanity, or will it get increasingly insane?
I don't know, man. I feel like, time always has a way of, I don't know, it's like that old thing of like things always kind of come back in style. You know what I mean? It's like you wear a certain pair of pants long enough, they're going to come back in style. And I hope that that's kind
I
of.
tested that.
Yeah, same. But I hope that's it. I hope at some point, like, clear heads prevail and people are like, man, listen, all across the board, it's like, whatever we're doing here is not working, and it's a mess. And so until, everybody kind of gets on the same page, stops pushing their own agendas for their own parties and their own stuff, like, I don't see it getting better. So I hope it does, because I feel like how I grew up, I was born in 77, kind of a kid of the 80s. The 80s were awesome, man. You got to ride your bikes all over the place, and you played outside, and, you didn't worry about, there was stuff going on. I mean, there was, Cold War and all that stuff, kind of stuff going on or whatever. But was that what it was in the 80s with the...
I think that's what they called it, yeah.
And so, you always had that stuff going on. I remember laying in bed as a kid going, man, is there going to be a Russian rocket come through my window tonight, So, there's always been those kind of things, but, I just think our country, man, like what it was founded on, the beliefs and everything else, and what we stand for as a country has just been kind of lost. I don't know. I just feel like we're off track somehow.
Is Trump going to win?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Hell, I thought he was going to win in 22, but...
Yeah. What happened there?
In 20?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think from my standpoint, there was a lot of, it's never taken us that long to figure out who our president was.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff going on. In Georgia, you had a water main break.
Yeah.
And then
weird.
It was just
election night.
Yeah, it was just those kind of things over and over, and then, so, whether there was ballot dumping or whatever you want to call it going on during that time or not, I think to the average person out there, it looked shady. It looked like, wait, Trump's in the lead, and then all of a sudden water mains break. Well, let us count all these votes, and then all of a sudden Trump stays here and Biden, overtakes him. It's like, how is that possible? I think there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on, which is why a lot of people questioned it. And, so I don't know. I think, like I said, I'm obviously a supporter of Trump. I like, do I think he can be brash sometimes and say some things that, he probably could have a little bit better of a bedside manner? Sure. I'll give you that. That's fair. At the end of the day, I don't really care if he hurts your feelings or not, as long as, like, as a country, we're moving in the right direction. The economy's great. There's jobs for people. When people are working and making money and there's jobs created, it's just a fact. There's less crime. There's less all those things. People aren't having to steal for money and feed their families or do whatever. There's less of that because they're working. They're making money. They're doing well. And I just, I saw that when he was in office. And, that's what one of the reasons I'm a supporter of his. I just like the direction that I feel like he would take us.
Yeah. So you're confident he could win again?
Well, yeah, I think you go and look. Have you ever seen support for president? Have you ever seen an army of support for president like with him? I've never seen that. Not in my life.
I don't think I saw any Joe Biden signs in 2020, and then in the end, he wound up with more votes as a senile man who could barely speak.
Than any president in history.
More than Barack Obama himself.
And I think that's what...
It seemed like a lot. 81 million seemed like a lot.
And I think that's where people are like, I don't know, man. Like, hold on a minute. And And so that's where a lot of the questions came up. I hope that they figure out a way to do this election where it's fair. I think you should have, everybody should have to show ID. You should be a registered voter that has to show ID. You should be a legal citizen from here. This border, everybody we're letting them through the border, are we going to let them vote? Like, how does that work? I feel like,
Well,
to
that's
me, it seems like that's the whole reason we're letting them in right now,
yeah.
right?
It's
So,
not to help the economy. That's what.
no, and so, do I think he will win? I think if it's done legally and I think everything's on the up and up, I don't see how he loses. But we'll see.
So I gotta ask you, since you're sitting here, how do you write a country music song?
Well,
what's the I've always wondered. I like country music, and I've always wondered, like, what's the process, like, specifically?
well, so I think for me, it's always finding a really cool title, uh, and kind of wrapping a cool idea around that title. So whatever that is. So the way I do it a lot of times is I'll come up with an idea or a song title or whatever it is. And so I'll send it to the guys I write with, and I'm like, hey, this is what I got. This is what I'm thinking. Like, here's the idea for the first
But
verse.
just even before that, like, where does the idea come to you?
I just think some of it's life experience, some of
But
it's,
are you, like, in the shower, mowing the lawn?
usually it's late at night. So I'm a night owl. My wife likes to go to bed about 10 o'clock. My kids are in bed like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And so for the first time all day, my house gets quiet about 10 o'clock at night. And so that's when I kind of start sitting there, and
You speak
that's
for
when I
the
get
American
creative.
man.
Yeah, I get really creative at night, and so I'll just sit there and start going through stuff, texting my guys, and start trying to map out a song or something, and then we'll get on tour or whatever, and we'll kind of finish stuff up. But it's
Wait, so
it's a process.
So
Yeah.
you're, like, sitting in your living room.
Well, used to I would go in when I first moved to Nashville. I moved there as a songwriter. I was signed to Warner Chappell, which is Warner Brothers publishing company. So, I would go into the office every day and I would write from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day in a room, no windows, just sitting there trying to hammer songs out. And now,
Wait, that's how it works? You sit in a room?
that's how it used to work all the time. And now,
What
with
if you
COVID, when COVID happened, everybody could do writes on Zoom calls. It's like you would do meetings on Zoom calls, and all of a sudden you could write. You could be here in Maine, I could be in Tennessee. We get on a Zoom call and just write a song.
How does that work, though? You write the lyrics, someone writes the music.
You get a track, like you'll anymore. It's like a Pro Tools rig or something, just where you can. You got like an iPad or something. You can pull up get something going, just a beat, drum beat, a little loop or something, and put a guitar over it and start messing around and lyrics, and it's kind of in sections almost. The idea, the title, and the idea are the main thing. Then you kind of start building around that.
The song title.
Yeah. So like my mom, her brother, my uncle passed away like earlier this year, last year from dementia. And so my cousin had been helping, really take care of my uncle for the last few years and kind of just been there for him for everything. And so I had a title the day he passed away. I was like, man, the title was a song called Help You Remember was the name of the song. And it was just basically like, her trying to, he didn't know her every day, so she would have to go remind him of who she was and all the things. And so basically I had this idea, the title and the idea around the song, sent it to those guys. We start writing it, and it's going to be a song that's on the next record, but it's really cool. And one of those songs is just not, it's not your typical radio song. It's like bigger than that. And I think there's a lot of people dealing with that kind of thing right now, and I think it's gonna hit people really hard. But that's kind of the way I write songs.
So, but it's collaborative. Like, it sounds like there are always multiple people involved in the song.
So there's usually probably 4 of us involved in it. It's
Same people.
Yeah, one guy will build the tracks and he plays guitar on it, and then one guy puts my bass player, he plays bass on it, and then all of us kind of do the lyrics and things like that. But they sort of map out like a cool, sonically just make it cool, like chord progressions and melodies and those kind of things. And then we get in and start really tackling lyrics and.
How do you know when you're done?
when we don't feel like when we feel like all of our good ideas are gone. Like, it's like, I don't know how I can write that line any better.
Melody with it.
That's cool. And if it's a line or something that bugs us that we just keep working on until we figure out we get it right. And it's like, man, that's pretty good. I don't know how it's going to get better.
What's the longest you've worked on a song?
Well, hell, we got one right now we've been working on for a while. It's been written for a while, but there's some stuff I wanted to change in it. And
words or music?
Words. So it's kind of like a song that name checks some other artists and stuff. And so I got a really cool idea for it. And I just haven't been able to piece it all together like I want to yet. I've been working on that one for a few months now. So you just never know. Sometimes it happens fast. Sometimes it's a couple hours and sometimes it's a couple weeks. And if it's one that's really worth spending some time on, you'll put some time in on it to make sure it's good. If you know it's close, like this is close to being a really big song, you want to make sure it's good. You don't want to go, it's good. We wrote it in 2 hours. It's like, get the gist of it in 2 hours and then go back and just chip away at it.
A song in 2 hours?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't very good, but, I can write one in 10 minutes with you, but it's not going to be very good. Chances are it's not going to be very good.
I know Greg Allman wrote Midnight Rider while high.
Oh, yeah.
In like 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, Greg's awesome. I got to play with him once.
Really?
The Allman Brothers kind of formed in my hometown, Macon, Georgia, where I'm from. So I grew up a huge fan of the Allman Brothers, and they were just so ingrained into that town that I'm from. And so as I got older and started getting on the road and playing shows, those kind of things, I got to do a show. We were doing like an acoustic thing, and he started playing Midnight Rider. It was him and Warren Haynes. And so I looked at my guitar player. I'm like, no way I'm missing out on this. So I just jumped right in on Midnight Rider, started singing with him, singing harmonies and stuff. And it was cool. It was the only time I ever got to play with him.
Who are the people in Nashville that the other artists revere, who are like universally admired?
George Strait, I think, is that guy.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's our guy in country music. I mean, he's our Hank Williams Sr., our living legend guy that is the king of what we do, and I think he will have that title forever. So he's a guy that everybody really looks up to. I think Toby Keith was one of those guys, or at least was for me. Reba, I think Reba's one that everybody. Dolly Parton, everybody loves Dolly too. So there's some of those kind of acts, some of the legendary ones like that everybody loves them, obviously. So the rest of us, not so much.
Will you be doing this till your George Strait's age?
I hope so, man. I mean, I started playing bars when I was 14, 15 years old. And, I tell people this all the time. It sounds so cliche, but it's like, man, this is really all I know to do. I mean, I did this and I played baseball. That was the two things I was pretty good at. And playing baseball meant I had to go to school for 4 years, that didn't sound very appealing to me at the time. And so, I was already playing bars and stuff. So I was like, man, let me just go do this for a year and see how it goes. And started playing college towns, college bars, and it was over. Like, I knew, this is what I wanted to do.
That was as close as you got to college?
Oh, yeah. And I was like, I knew immediately. I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. And it's all I've done since I was, 14, 15 years old for the most part. And so I want to do this as long as I can. And as long as, I always said, the fans will tell you when it's time to quit or cut back. If you're playing a 20,000 seat place and there's only 5,000 people there, it's probably time to pack it up and maybe go home and do something else for a minute. But, I hope that never happens. And as long as people come out, man, I'll be out there playing for sure.
Last question. How do you not get worn out after spending a life on the road, addicted to something, mess of a personal life, super unhealthy?
I think a lot of times that kind of comes with the territory. I mean, it's 15 years old. I'm playing in bars with guys that are in their 40s. And, I saw a lot of stuff as a kid, going to the band dressing room, there's Coke or whatever on the table or whatever these guys were doing. And I just remember thinking to myself, I don't want to be playing a bar when I'm 40. I don't want to have a day job and then come do this at night when I'm 40 to make $50 a night. it just wasn't like I knew then that that was a stepping stone to do something else that I wanted to do. And so I think I was always like pretty aware of that and always wanted to make sure that like I tried to take care of myself. And it's hard, man. I mean, I went through periods on the road where, I wasn't living the healthiest lifestyle either. And, never was like a hard drug guy, but like I like to drink and have fun as much as anybody, and there's times where you probably do that a little too much.
Yeah.
And I think, even that stuff, like it's taken me, it took me years to kind of get a grasp on all of it, because you become such a creature of habit. You go out and it's Groundhog Day, man. You get on the bus, you show up at a place, hang out, you do your show, you hang out with the band after, you drink a little bit, get on the bus, go to the next town, do it. Well, when you start doing that and you're playing 200 days a year, you're drinking 200 days a year and doing that stuff. And so I think it reaches a point where I think most everybody, when it's starting out, you hit it hard, you're so excited to be out there and you're just, running and sort of living life on the edge a little bit. And then, I met my wife and had our kids and, she came out on the road and started giving me a little bit more of like okay, this is more like home out here now. It's like, it was just different. It was a different mindset for me going in. And
So you travel with your small children a lot?
a lot, yeah. Well, at least we did until they started school. Memphis is in first grade. Navy started kindergarten this year, so they're both in school now. And so one of the things is want to make sure, like, our life is so not normal anyway that, it's hard, man, when you're raising kids and you want them to have a normal childhood, normal life and all that, but then they come out and experience the things they do, and that's so not normal that I think, a thing for us this year is making sure she stays at home with them more to make sure they're in school and playing, Little League baseball and softball and doing all those kind of things too. That's really important to both of us. And, but yeah, I mean, for the last, what is Memphis, C6? So for the last 6 years, I mean, they've been out, I would say probably 75 to 80% of the time I was out, they've been out with me for the last 6 years. So, and I love it, man. I love having them out. And that's one of the things about this job is you tour, you're on the road constantly, and, and you miss your family, you miss your people.
Yeah, a lot.
And it's tough. It's a tough part of this business. And to be in a position now to be able to carry them out and travel with them and stuff, it's nice because when my older girls were little, I hadn't hit that point in my career yet where I could, had multiple buses and bring them out and kind of have a family bus. And, I was doing good to pay for the one bus I had. And so, and then they started school and same thing with them. I wanted them to kind of have a normal childhood and upbringing, even though our life was kind of crazy. And so it's been a little bit of a juggling act over the years trying to figure it out. But I feel like for me, I'm finally in a place that feel comfortable, like, I'm happy to go out on the road. I love being out there and playing. I love coming home, after a few days and seeing the family if they're not out there. And it works for me and it works for us. And it's been really good.
Well, I can tell it has been, which is what puts you in the top 1%.
Yeah.
For happiness.
Lucky man.
Jason Aldean, thank you very much.
Buddy, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you.
To watch the rest, unlock our entire vast library of content, you can visit tuckercarlson.com and activate your membership today. In the name of free speech, we hope you will.
Actually, I've been wanting to watch this trailer of his. Let's see if I can.
We're kicking off our live coast-to-coast speaking tour, and we are thrilled to announce a special guest at our Milwaukee show on September 16th. Larry Elder and I are going to be on stage that night, and we're going to be...
The Art of the Surge.
So we're standing exactly in the path where the president will walk out to the crowd about an hour from now, and there's a malfunction with the flag. Be careful! The hood rocking with Trump. Trump's definitely got...
The art of the surge. So let's watch it again since I kind of blew it.
So we're standing exactly in the path where the president will walk out to the crowd about an hour from now, and there's a malfunction with the flag.
Be careful.
The hood's rocking with Trump. Trump's definitely got the black vote back.
Make America great again.
Donald Trump's the boss. But when you think you're in control, Donald Trump does something that says you're not in control. Will anybody can do this? I don't think so.
What is the campaign specifically doing differently now?
If there's one word to describe it, it's just execution.
Biden's just taken the stage of the debate.
The standard is not, are you able to stand up for 90 minutes?
I can't even understand it right now.
Trump is like riding a great racehorse, right? You put the blinders on, you guide him to the corners, and you let him run.
Look at how many people are showing up for our rally. Everyone waiting to make sure you're ready. 30 seconds.
So that looks like that's going to be powerful too, and we'll watch that sometime. Anyway, like, comment, ask questions, subscribe, and share. That's what that I have to say. Definitely subscribe so that you can see all the content before YouTube hides the content. They don't like the truth. So this is the Way to the Truth cast. Nothing but the truth, but the whole truth. So help us God. And this was the news today.